Good afternoon. My name is Guy Fraker. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Insurance Thought Leadership. And I have the good fortune today to be sitting here with Ryan Collier, Chief Digital Officer for Risk
Placement
Services and RPS. And we're going to talk a little bit about ways that they are really looking at the customer relationship and improving that customer experience and making the whole value chain essentially much more appealing to the customer in the process. So we're here at InsurTech Connect. Why don't you talk a little bit about the system that you are working with and the results you've had so far?
Sure, thank you. 4 years ago, we decided to endeavor to build a friction-free system to help endear our retail insurance brokers to work with RPS more. What we wanted to do was take the pain out of the insurance buying process, because if they can make it painless for their customers, they're going to use us a lot more. We've been very successful. We just passed the $100 million threshold in premium, which we're very proud of.
That's great.
And we've actually built 12 products that have I like to say, a friction-free process. And with that gives us a differentiator versus our competitors. It gives us a value proposition, but even more so, it makes the retail broker a lot more relatable to the end customer that's used to an instant gratification purchase power like they can do with Amazon today.
You know, what I find really, genuinely impressive about what you're doing is so many pundits, and we all read the hype in the media, declare, that middle salesperson role being the first to fade away in the insurance transaction.
Right.
Because of that immediate gratification. But you've actually taken the approach of strengthening that relationship and strengthening that role in a world of instant gratification. And I find that really fascinating. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Was
Sure.
that a goal?
Sure, it was. There's the term disintermediation is absolutely a term you need to be aware of. And it's a term that I think motivates us, but it's a term that we're going to utilize to our advantage. If you think about Netflix is in the same position we are. Granted, we're not Netflix, but they're between a customer who buys a product and a movie company that distributes a product, or a
Sure.
TV company, just like we're between an insurance buyer and a insurance carrier. So if you take a look at utilizing data, utilizing a process that's very thoughtful toward the end consumer, utilizing a process that makes it so it's not painful, I think we have a chance to really change the game quite a bit. Because if you look at a lot of the retail brokers we work with, and we work with 20,000 retail agencies, 14,000 on the platform, they don't have the means to build a platform like we've built.
Sure.
They don't have the technology expertise, they don't have the capital, they don't have the carrier relationships. So really that intermediary that we are gives us a really neat catbird position, I like to think. And you're right, disintermediation is going to occur, it's not going to occur to us.
Well, what's wonderful about what you're describing is the best innovations out become platforms for further innovation. And we know on the agent broker side, customer acquisition costs have only increased with all the technology that's supposed to be more efficient. And then you also hear small business owners complaining about the cost of doing business and how much time they're taking away from their customers. You're really solving a couple of major problems all at once.
Trying to. If you look at the mortgage industry, the mortgage industry is way, way farther ahead than we are from a technology perspective, but they haven't seen the cost savings. The cost of acquiring a mortgage today is 61% higher than it was in 1998, 20 years ago. That makes no sense because they haven't focused on the end consumer as much as they needed to. They tried to focus on their back office, not the consumer's back office. If we can actually take care of our customer, the retail broker, and allow them to have a transaction with their client in 2 minutes, think about the ROI. They've got a happy customer, they've got a product that they generated revenue on, and they can go ahead and focus on a whole lot of other things other than following up for an application, trying to follow up with an underwriter to get that $800 policy to the top of the pile. There's a lot more efficiency that they can gain, but even a lot more growth they can entertain because they don't have to be bottled up with all of the back office minutia that tears up their day.
So let's talk about adoption for a minute. There would be, I think we would agree in the general perception that the distribution side of insurance, is not always the most forward thinking in terms of change, adopting change.
Very true.
And I just heard you mention this significant number of agents and brokers who have adopted the platform. How did you go about introducing it to them and achieving that kind of scale?
Well, I don't think we've done a great job of it so far. We're getting better. It's grassroots. You have to do it grassroots because you're not just changing a person using a technology format, you're changing their mindset.
Right.
They've been conditioned that pain equals value. They have to send their client an application, follow up with that application 3 times before the client sends it back. They have to send it to an insurance carrier, wait 3 days or 4 days or 5 days, follow up, wait another 3 or 4 or 5 days, follow up again, get the quote, send that to their customer. Before you know it, 30 days have elapsed. That's a valuable process to them.
Right.
Pain equals value. It doesn't have to be that way. So we're trying to break down psychologically the barrier that these retail insurance brokers have, that they have to have a painful experience for it to be valuable. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And if you look at the law of diffusion of innovation, that kind of the bell curve,
Sure.
we're still significantly on that upslope. We've got about 7 or 8% of our 14,000 agencies on our platform that are super users, that are using it every day. It's a part of their DNA.
Yep.
And just like the law of diffusion of innovation, once you get to that tipping point at the 16th percentile, we're going to see a flood. It's going to be great. By the way, it's one of our products is flood insurance. 2 minutes, you can have a personal flood policy. But once you get to the tipping point, we're really hoping that it's going to become a lot easier for people to adopt it.
And that's fascinating because we talked about before, just off camera, before we had started this conversation, the binding process, the quoting process being significantly enhanced in terms of speed and pace for the end user, so to speak.
Yep.
What kind of reductions have you seen?
Sure. The fastest quote bind issue, so the transaction being completed from beginning to end, alpha to omega, 97 seconds.
Wow.
That's from the first keystroke going into the application being completed to the policy being in their inbox. 97 seconds. That's the fastest. It usually takes about 2, maybe 3 minutes, but that's the entire transaction. That's not just a quote.
What was it before?
Could be 60 days.
Yeah.
And you're really flying if you get it done in 2 weeks. Think about I'll pull a favor out and get you a quote tomorrow. That doesn't need to be happening any longer. You don't have to pull out the favor from the favor bank. You can generate a quote in a minute, 2 minutes.
So I'm curious, was there a moment that you can kind of backtrack to where somebody said, what if we could do X? And everybody said, oh yeah, sure. But, what if we could go to Mars too? I mean, you
might be easier.
Because those kinds of exponential improvements and results generally do come out of what if questions,
right?
Because somebody has to imagine that it's possible. But can you just talk to a little bit about how that went from a dream to, or an idea on a cocktail napkin or what have you, to something that actually got resources and got built?
Sure. Mother's the necessity of invention. For cyber insurance, which is our flagship product, we've sold over 30,000 cyber insurance policies. Cyber insurance, the aha moment was we would send an application, 15 pages to our retail broker. They didn't understand it, their clients didn't understand it, and never came back. No sale can be made. Policies need to be bought, not sold. That's my philosophy. I know it doesn't sound very deep, but they should be bought, not sold. How can we help the end customer buy the policy instead of trying to sell the policy? Because the retail broker couldn't understand how to get through the application to help guide their client. The aha moment was if we can change it from a pull to a push. Let's push a quote that the retail broker can complete on behalf of their client. Let's push the quote so the retail broker does all of the work, which takes 1 minute, for their customer. Now they're in sales mode. Hello, client. Here's a cyber proposal, the greatest exposure you have as a customer. We've done all the work. Please confirm these 4 questions are accurate. Sign it and date it, and we will send your policy to you in 3 seconds. That was the aha moment because I couldn't get the applications back to even try to sell an insurance policy. So we wanted to change the whole technique from pull to push. The aha moment was 38 insurance carriers told me to go away. They told me it was a stupid idea, it would never happen. Cyber insurance could not be underwritten with 4 questions. Couldn't do it. Well, we figured out a way. The other thing that helps tremendously is I'm blessed by a tremendous team. The team I'm surrounded by helps challenge me, helps push our carriers, helps to push our industry. So that's a big, it's not just me, but it's our team, which does a great job.
Well, I have to tell you, that is an absolutely wonderful story because in the world that we live in, and particularly with all the activity going on around us, I think it's much the same with ideas. They have to be bought. Very often they can't be sold, and somebody has to have that belief in the possible.
Right.
So congratulations, and I really appreciate you sharing your story with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for the time.
Ryan.